Well, thank you everybody for being here. Sheriff, thank you for hosting us, and Under Sheriff, and your team. You're going to hear from colleagues in government at every level to talk about something really important and I think widely agreed upon. One of the most important issues for the American people that is a nonpartisan thing, which is public safety, ensuring that everyone in our community, every family can feel safe, whether that's from gun violence, dangerous criminals, drug trafficking, fentanyl that's harming our communities. All of these things, I certainly hear, and I'm sure you all do too, of course, especially you, Sheriff. This is a foundational responsibility of government to keep our people, to keep our communities safe. So we're going to talk about two different things going on in regards to that, both at the federal level and how it's really playing out here in our community in Ulster County and in the Hudson Valley. And just to sort of cue that up before I introduce the sheriff, the two items we're going to talk about. First, some of the impacts of federal funding cuts and/or freezes and how that, unfortunately, is directly counter to that imperative of public safety here in our area. And second, and more optimistically, in terms of what we're doing to address it, bipartisan legislation that I just introduced called the Invest to Protect Act that hopefully helps address that problem and get more funding to our great local law enforcement. So I always am honored when, as an Army guy, I get to introduce a Marine. So I think everybody needs no introduction for our great sheriff, but Sheriff and Under Sheriff, thank you for all your work on behalf of the county, and thanks for having us here, and I'll introduce Sheriff Juan Figueroa.
Thank you, Congressman. Obviously, I got to lower those. So, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for coming, Congressman. Thank you, County Exec, Senator. Thank you for coming. This is an important time for law enforcement, especially at the heels of reimagining police for the last 5 or 6 years. The retention and recruitment of law enforcement has been a major issue for a lot of mid-sized and smaller agencies like Sheriff's Office and town police departments in the Hudson Valley. To get funding to look at these issues are extremely important. We're also talking about training and officer wellness. We know what happened recently here a couple of weeks ago, and the stresses that occur when you're down 10 deputies or 30 corrections officers. These folks are overworked, and retention and recruitment is one of the key figures and issues that we are facing now in law enforcement. Training is extremely important as well. Our community expects that our men and women are trained properly in order to interact in a way that they approve of. And so funding for the federal government is extremely important at this juncture. And I thank the Congressman for moving forward and taking care of his community. And we hope that this does succeed so we can have public safety be something that we're all proud of. So thank you, Congressman.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate it. Yeah. Next up, I guess this is a shared building, of course, between the sheriff and the county. County Executive Jen Metzger doing an awesome job, and thank you for joining us. And please come on up. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. So, I have to say it's really surprising to me to see funding for law enforcement be a partisan issue. It's not what you expect, it's not what we would expect, and it's not what our communities deserve. And it's just deeply disappointing that the Republicans in Congress have cut this funding to Ulster County and to other counties in our region that is so important to our law enforcement agencies. I want to thank the Congressman for being an incredible champion of the safety and security of our communities, and for the work he's been doing to try to secure additional funding. And in particular, thank you so much for your introduction of the Invest to Protect Act. This is going to help our police departments. As the sheriff mentioned, We have huge needs when it comes to recruitment, training, and retention of officers. And it's really going to help our smaller departments. I want to just call out one particular provision of the Act, which I especially appreciate. It's a provision of the bill that provides up to $10,000 in tuition to fund officers' graduate studies in mental health, public health, and social work, which really builds on our sheriff's visionary model of law enforcement to really meet people where they are, meet their needs, help get them the help that they need and they deserve. So we really hope that this gets over the finish line. Thank you again, Congressman, for being such a champion of our communities and of law enforcement. Thank you.
And I'm going to give a few more details on the legislation too, which I probably should have done at the start. I apologize, but I wanted to make sure you heard from all my partners first. So last but certainly not least, Senator Michelle Hinchey, who we've been partnered on a bunch of issues, and I know she's done great work for not only law enforcement but also first responders and EMS across all the broad range of public safety. So thanks, Michelle. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Congressman. Hello, everyone. Thank you, and thanks for coming together for this incredibly important topic. Sheriff and undersheriff and everybody in this building, your whole teams, thank you for what you do every day, making sure that we are safe here in Ulster County. Congressman, thank you for your leadership on this issue and for stepping out on something that is not getting enough attention, and yet we need to come together to support it. And County Executive too, for all of your leadership in the county and making sure that we're investing in our first responders in every level. You know, I wanted to make sure that I could be here today because this is an incredibly important topic. I was really proud to support the 2 grants specifically for Ulster County for new technology, as well as the emergency operations centers with letters of support, showing that there is state support for these 2 really important programs, but also to be here to support the legislation. I spend a lot of my time educating both people and colleagues in government the difference about small police departments and law enforcement offices and the lack of resources that we often have and the many different hats and roles that our first responders play in everything from emergency services to checking on folks during ice storms, right? I mean, they wear so many different hats, and we have to do everything we can to invest in our local departments, and especially those small ones, because they've not gotten the resources that we need, and yet we expect them to do more and more. And so this legislation is a huge step forward in actually finally putting our dollars where they should work, providing grants for mental health training, for tuition reimbursement, for more technology, for all the things that we as a society know that we need. This is the right path forward. And so I want to thank the Congressman again for introducing this. This should not be a partisan issue. If anything, this is a perfect bipartisan issue for all of us to come together to unite around supporting the people who are out there every day, supporting the rest of us. So thank you for your work. Glad to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing both of our grants hopefully coming through in the next funding round, and also making sure that this legislation goes to the finish line. So thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you all, and just to expand quickly on each of those items, as you heard from all my colleagues, several years in a row, actually, even going back to Congressman Delgado before me, every year the representative was able to, myself included, deliver often several $1 million of direct support, direct federal dollars to Ulster County, largely to support the incredible innovative work of Oracle under the sheriff's leadership and all the team. And this is the first year in my recent memory where we have not been able to, at least through these community project fund sources, been able to do that. And this is a national thing. All of these community projects across the country, for the first time in over a decade, were cut out of the budget just a few weeks ago. I strongly and proudly voted against this budget, but by a margin of 3 votes, with all Republicans supporting. They literally voted. This is not a partisan statement. I know it sounds like it. They literally voted to defund our local law enforcement. And that is shocking to me. Specifically in Ulster County, we had secured nearly $2 million in projects that were already approved, that we worked, the county worked, the sheriff and his team worked for months to do all the paperwork and all the submissions. We were down to the final line, and those got cut out. That's funding to support the Emergency Operations, Government Operations Center program, as well as a whole bunch of training and technology needs directly for the Sheriff's Department. And it's not just Ulster County. I'd also worked closely with Sheriff Arteta in Orange County to secure several $1 million in funding for body-worn cameras in their jail facility, their corrections facility. And in Dutchess County, worked with the DA there and the Sheriff to secure several $1 million in funding for them to set up a real-time crime center to specifically focus on safety at our schools and responding, God forbid, if needed, more rapidly to an incident, a public safety incident at schools. And so we honestly, I mean, there's been a lot of cuts and frankly chaos, but the last thing I expected to be affected would be this kind of funding, as you heard, especially from, as Michelle said there at the end. I think we can all agree keeping our community safe, supporting great law enforcement is the last thing we would expect to see politicized in this way. So we are going to push back on this, but it probably means that we're going to have to wait until next year's federal budget. We are resubmitting, I am resubmitting all of these projects in addition to several other great community projects, from a 4-H center in Otisville in Western Orange County to a lot of other critically impactful programs that was infuriating to lose this funding. So we're going to resubmit those all. But I just think it's important that folks understand the impacts of, unfortunately, these kinds of cuts and the growing partisan and political, unfortunately, nature of Congress as it is right now. And I'll continue to try to find common ground. If we had found just a few, we needed 3 House Republicans to sort of speak up on this and not agree to these cuts, and unfortunately none of them did. So I'm going to keep working in good faith to try to do that. The second thing that is more positive and proactive, and especially in light of the cuts I just talked about, is introducing a broadly bipartisan bill called the Investor Protect Act. This is specifically focused, happy to go into further detail, but at the high level, what it's really about is making sure that smaller law enforcement agencies across the country, specifically agencies with under 175 sworn officers, which every single agency, every single department in my district with 82 different towns are all under 175 sworn, that they get their fair share of federal funding for everything from equipment to training to the full gamut. If you look at how this currently works in America, there's really 20 major departments that align with our major cities across the country. They get over 80% of the federal funding goes to those large cities, and they need it and understand that, but it often comes at the expense of small and medium, more rural and suburban agencies, including our own Ulster County Sheriff's Office. So this bill has broad bipartisan support because people understand this affects so many communities. We just reintroduced the bill. We almost got it passed through the House last time, but we couldn't get it over the line. So I really appreciate the push from everybody here, and we want to raise awareness about it and ask those in other places that might be hearing this to encourage their representatives to co-sponsor this bill. So in the face of cuts, in the face of not getting some of the resources, I think it's important to be proactive and to propose a solution. So that's what this Investor Protect Act is about. So that's kind of the heart of what we wanted to hit on today. We'll keep it relatively brief. Really appreciate everybody coming. I especially want to thank County Executive Metzger, Senator Hinchey, Sheriff Figueroa, Under Sheriff. Thank you guys for hosting us again. Happy to take a few questions, and then we can get everybody on with their day. Anybody got anything?
So, like, in all likelihood, how would you think this bill is going to pass?
The Investor Protect Act?
Yes.
I think it, has an actual good chance of passing. There are many bills that get introduced that, for a whole bunch of reasons, it's usually about 2% of federal bills actually finally make it through the House and pass. We just had our first one that I co-sponsored pass through called the Halt Fentanyl Act, which I actually talked about this morning, focus on fentanyl. So stopping fentanyl, I should say, to be more specific. This is one that I think has a real good shot of passing and has wide bipartisan support. Anybody else? Yeah. John's quiet, so you get all the questions.
I have 2 questions for Senator.
Saw that coming.
That's up.
I mean,
yeah.
it's your show.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Sure. We'll break the formal and let you guys sort that out. Again, appreciate everybody coming. And thank you to you all for covering this, for doing 2 firsts to those of you that were up bright and early at the Chamber of Commerce breakfast this morning. Thank you very much. All right. Thank you, guys.